everybody. So nice to see your faces. And I am Lisa Solis DeLong. I am a registered nurse and have been for over 40 years. I'm also a mother and I wrote a memoir. I'm an author. The book is Blood Brothers, a memoir of faith and loss while raising two sons with cancer. So my background is lived and experienced. And I have most recently become a shamanic practitioner and understanding energy and its medicine and how it works in our bodies. So I've integrated that into my offerings as well. And I just want to say very quickly how helpful Terry has been to me to make sense of my life, because like many of you, it's been quite chaotic and there's a lot of wisdom and content. So thank you, Terry, and off to you.
All right. Well, I appreciate every minute I get to spend with Lisa, and I've learned so much from her. So we met about 7 years ago, and our relationship just keeps evolving and evolving. And I wish the same for all of you, that you find that special person in your life that fills you up, pushes you forward. It's a good yin and yang thing we've got going on.
1 second, I forgot to include in my bio that I am the Chief Spiritual Officer of Thriving Leader Collaborative.
That's right.
I love this position, and so thank you.
And you're going to see how that plays out as we go. So, Chelsea, I'm going to count on you to do the admitting now. I'm stepping away from those responsibilities. So, what about me? So, I've been in this leadership, coaching, speaking gig for quite some time, and so now it's so long I hesitate to say how many years. So, but suffice it to say that we'll go ahead and mute Ryan, please. I had an extensive hospitality career, Four Seasons Hotels, Pebble Beach Company. Then I had my own business for 15 years doing consulting, coaching, speaking, segued into healthcare. We don't have enough time on this webinar for me to tell you about that transition because that's an interesting one. So into healthcare I go. I ended up, after some time with Studer Group, I ended up at HCA, the largest healthcare provider in the United States. And I launched from there back into my own business, which is Short Group. And from there, built the umbrella company of Thriving Leader Collaborative that Chelsea and Lisa and two other gals are a part of at this point. And so I coach, I speak, I write, and I'm incredibly passionate about sharing some of my expertise and some of my passion around bringing out the brilliance of others, of you. So that's what we're doing with TLC, as we call it, the Thriving Leader Collaborative. We're coaching the intersection of inner balance, so your spiritual and intuitive intelligence, with your outer challenges. So like I said, we write, Lisa and I toggle back and forth doing articles. We do events like this or experiences where we get people involved live, and we do retreats. So this year we're doing 3 retreats. I'm going to tell you about those later. And the idea there is that when we gather together for more intense amount of time, let's say, then individuals are able to realize a transformation, and then that leads to them being transformative leaders when they go back to their workplace. So it's about the individual and what it is that they need in order to indeed serve others to their greatest capacity. So you'll get several things today. You will get 2 articles, Leaders Who Juggle Well and How Inner Balance Serves Outer Challenges. So those 2 articles, a side-by-side list of the 6 pillars of inner balance that Lisa is going to tell us about in a minute, as well as the 6 personas of a thriving leader that I'm going to tell you about. You'll get a copy of a sample calendar. More on that in a minute. And these slides, and the last thing will be a link to a resource that Lisa talks us through in one of her breathing exercises. So that's what we're going to share with you. And so the reason that this whole thing was complicated with the link is that we wanted people to sign in, so then we had your email in order to be able to share all of these things. So I would invite you, if you came in differently through LinkedIn, to put your email, and you can do it privately, put your email in the chat so that we're able to send you these resources after this event. All right, so let's talk about our vision actually, and our mission. The mission that we're on is for the Thriving Leader Collaborative to ignite and inspire the inner wisdom of leaders worldwide. I used to live in Montana, and we say, go big or go home. So worldwide, We serve leaders in the evolution of their intuitive intelligence by creating opportunities to integrate inspired thought, education, and practice. We're going to do a little practice today. So let's go into an overview, and that's the slide that you see up right now. This is sort of the model that we speak of extensively. And so I'm going to talk about the top part of the tree. So the 6 personas: ambassador of the culture. Great leaders set the tone for the culture of the organization, and they're expected to live the mission, vision, and values. You all of you on this call, you're expected to live the mission, vision, and values of your organization every day in all that you do. That's sometimes challenging, so there are things to do about that. Leader as coach. So great leaders actively coach those that they serve, and they bring out the potential of all individual contributors. Continual change agent. We all need to be continual change agents now. So great leaders embrace change as a constant, and they lead in a way that normalizes change for their team and for key stakeholders. Life integrator. Great leaders integrate all aspects of their true self, including personal and spiritual connections. And emotional and intuitively intelligent. Great leaders harness the power of emotional and intuitive intelligence. And last but not least, the topic we're going to dive into a little deeper today is proactive and productive juggler. Great leaders plan well and accomplish much. So I'll leave it to Lisa now to talk through the 6 pillars of inner balance.
Great. Yes. So I love this image of the tree because, as we know, the trunk of the tree leads to the roots. And imagining ourselves right now taking this information that is in the foliage, in the greenery of the leaves that Terry was just talking about. And all of that really begins through the trunk and the roots that feeds these aspects of being. And so the first one, everything starts with self-awareness, and that's where we have an understanding of how we see the world, that we see it through our own eyeballs, and have an awareness that other people see the world through their eyeballs. And we come from different experiences and backgrounds, and that's where self-awareness begins. And it's a part of, to practice self-awareness, we practice reflection and journaling and expressing gratitude and being aware of our bodies. How do our bodies feel in every circumstance, really? And then number 2, the second one, community. Community is how we align with others to support our spiritual expansion and our spiritual thriving and awareness. So that's usually done in prayer, in service environments where you're collectively working on a project together or in service to others. And then retreats, which are my favorite, because it's a chance to get out of your normal environment and then move into a space with others who are growing and curious about the same thing. And then circles. Circles are coming back and becoming more and more popular. They were the original indigenous way of supporting each other spiritually, was always and in community, was in circle. And what it does is allows eye contact, direct eye contact with every single participant, and levels the field so that there's maybe a circle leader, but it also leads to ceremonies and that aspect of being in community. And then movement. Movement is key, being aware of our body and how we can support our spirit through walking and dancing and yoga, forest baths, or being out in nature in a natural environment. And also the practices like Qigong and some of the energetic move from the very ancient practices like that of understanding energy movement and how to do that. Presence is accomplished through meditation and quiet time and media fasts, turning off your TV, turning off your phone, turning off your computer, and breath work, understanding and being present with the breath. It all begins there as well. And then lastly, intuition. You know, we all have intuition. It's a given aspect of our being. It's a survival mechanism. And it teaches us how to be sensitive to our environment. When we pay attention to synchronistic events, when we trust our gut, how does this feel in my body when I get information or make a decision? Noticing symbols and numbers and things that are seem to be repetitious and giving you messages. And then paying attention to dreams, how important that is. And it's kind of a forgotten art for a lot of us. But when you combine all of those things, it really sustains your ability to lead yourself and lead others. And then lastly, energetic hygiene. I'm sorry, I have my glasses on. I have to tilt my head to see these things. Those of you wearing glasses understand. So energetic hygiene, where you're practicing, you're practicing clearing and wiping away the energy of the day and the energy of other people. So that also includes breath work. Epsom salt baths help us do that. Sound baths, the being in around sound that moves energy, and then practicing grounding, which is to get anchored in your own body and bringing your energy back in. So all of these practices help us to do that. And then, are we ready to go into learning outcomes, Terry? Okay, so for today, we're going to learn how to change your energy in the moment to serve competing demands, and also how to proactively integrate presence daily to enhance your productivity. And with that, I will hand it over to Terry.
Thanks, Lise. So in order to do that, those learning objectives she just talked about, what we're going to do is, if you look at this tree, we're going to zero in on the far one on the right, the proactive and productive juggler. And we're going to dive deeper into that one with a reflection on the practices under movement, presence, and energy. So here's what we're doing for you. Like that, we're going to tie just that one behavior, so a couple of behaviors under proactive, productive juggler, and we're going to show you how to leverage a couple of behaviors, a couple of practices under those three components of the 6 pillars. Sound like fun? Sound like a good plan? That's what we're doing. So Lisa, before we go there, talk about some of the key takeaways that we heard from the participants at the retreat that led us to come to this place to do this for the audience that's here today.
Well, it's interesting because everyone attending came from a professional background where they were attending to the needs of their teams, and how to integrate and balance. Balance was the key word of that whole retreat. Was how do we create balance between our work life and our personal life, and most importantly, our spiritual life. And so what came up about the word balance was to stay centered. Like, how do we stay centered in what we're doing? And that balance was actually, in many ways, for me, was a bit of a trigger word, because it meant so many things to so many different people. And Terry's always talking about the words we choose and why they matter. Her book is all about that. And so we lived right off, that the words we use have different meaning for different people. In our use of the word balance, it's to create that centered way of being so that our spirit is nurtured, our inner wisdom is trustworthy, because we know how it feels. And it can guide us through all the decisions we make personally and professionally. So that was our key, how to integrate all of this in a busy day, and how to clear energy that can really bring you down. And so we learned a great deal about just how effective that was. The offerings that we have at our retreats are our yoga and sound bath and breath work. And we lived that in our retreats in person, and really could see the difference it made as attendees came and they just got off planes and they had all their work worries, and then they stepped into this beautiful retreat center in the Redwoods and were able to let go. And from photos, if we took before and after photos, the transformations were amazing. So that's really what we experienced. And so what challenges did you see, Terry?
Well, I'm actually, before we get to that, I'm going to illustrate what you're talking about. So I just decided, this is news to Lisa and Chelsea. And Chelsea, by the way, is the brains behind everything. She's our director of operations, and she's behind the scenes making sure that we show up on the camera here, right? So I have 3 lemons here. So Chelsea put me back on the camera. Well, maybe I am. And I wonder, let's do the show your hand. How many people know how to juggle, can actually juggle? Raise your hands, anybody? Oh no, we don't have any jugglers, doesn't look like. Well, here's the thing. Juggling requires, what's it require? It requires balance. If I was standing on one foot, I'd be like this, that'd be way harder, right? Or if I was standing on my tippy toes, I wouldn't be able to do it. And if I was looking elsewhere, and I wouldn't be able to do it. if I didn't have good peripheral vision, I didn't have good coordination, I wasn't paying attention at the right time to the right things. Well, it ends up, I actually can't juggle. That's my idea of juggling. And because I don't have that, I haven't practiced pulling that all together. And so that I wanted to do that to illustrate that what we show you today, you have to put into practice in order for it to work, right? If I did this, my daughter can juggle. If I did it long enough and set my mind to it, I'd be able to juggle. So would you. But I would not, even when I got good at it, I still would not be able to do it well if I was standing on one foot, if I was distracted by something else in the room and I wasn't focused. So that's where we're going today. So we'll talk first about work time clarity. So now we're in that, that one leaf about productive and proactive juggler. And one behavior there is to clarify your work time. So I'm going to walk you through that in a few minutes' time. You have not exactly, some of you don't sleep as well as others, I'm guessing, but generally speaking, we have 16 hours of working time in a day. Hopefully we're sleeping for 8 and 16, we're doing something else. So during the course of that 16 hours, you get to choose how your work is aligned. Now, some of you are looking at me and you're saying, is she loony? I don't get to choose anything. I have meetings that get put on my calendar and things that I have to do. And I'm almost a victim to this organizational construct that we call my calendar. Well, here's the deal. For as long as we believe that external forces are solely responsible for the control of our time, that will be so. That will be the case. It's not until we decide that we own the way we do what we do and the amount of time we're going to dedicate to things that we take back that control that we are indeed able to find the balance. And we're able to get to a place where we can execute more seamlessly because we're in a good place. So I want to coach one particular thing today. I want to tell you about Parkinson's law. So you might not have heard that word before, but you're going to be super familiar with what I'm talking about. So the actual law is that in general is that work expands to fill the time which is available for completion. So what's that mean? If I have a report, or if let's say I'm going to have 3 slides for the upcoming town hall meeting at my organization, and I'm to deliver those slides in a month's time. I'm given a month to come up with those 3 slides. I will take a month to come up with those 3 slides. That's what it means. The work expands to fill the time available. It's the same as the more money you earn, the more money you spend, or the bigger the space that's available, the more junk you're going to find to fill it, right? So same sort of premise. It's about expansion and contraction. And it's back to what we control. We control that expansion or contraction. Now you can give it up to somebody else, and oftentimes we do. My contention is that maybe don't complain so much about it if that's your position. It's a ownership issue for you to say, I will be more in control of the expansion and or contraction of my time. Let me tell you how to do that. So step 1 is set, I'm going to call them artificial time constraints. So meaning when I said that if I was given a month to do the 3 slides, and I'm going to stop and say, wait a minute, exactly how much time does it take me to produce the 3 slides? So let's say I came up with an hour. It takes me an hour to do the 3 slides, and it might take 30 minutes for me to socialize them or to get some feedback. It might even take an additional 30 minutes for me to make updates based on the socialization. Okay, fine, I'm up to 2 hours. So if I've got a month to do it, now I'm going to block this time very specifically on my calendar, the 1 hour to do the first draft. I'm going to block the socialization. I'm going to block the refinement that might be needed. So now I've created the time that's needed, not the time that's given. This is how you bust through Parkinson's law. So you block that calendar invite for the work. You don't say block on it. You say exactly what you're going to accomplish in that time frame, and then you honor the block. Which means if something comes up and you don't get this thing done in that time, then you move the block somewhere else. I encourage you to honor the blocks as best you can, because as if it's a meeting with your boss, right? Be that serious about it. It is time for me to do this thing during this time. And then celebrate what you accomplished in that time frame, and be very cognizant of being able to accomplish exactly what you set out to do. You might also recalibrate. So let's say I got to the end, I realized, oh no, silly Terry, it takes way more than an hour to produce those slides. Then next time I'm going to plan 2 hours, and so on and so forth. So that's taking back control of what it is I'm responsible to do. It's not what I have to do so much. This is how it goes through my head. It's what I get to do in order to fulfill my contribution, in order to participate in the mission, vision, and values of my organization. So it's a switch really in clarity. Much more on that in my book, and maybe future sessions, the difference, the power of changing from get to have to, and the effect that has on your perspective. What else do you get to do? You get to carve sacred time. So time that you commit. Now you've got the 16 hours. The time that you're going to commit to self-care, let's call it, whether that's exercise, meditation, yoga, time in nature, family, community. Block that time as well on your calendar, and I'll illustrate that in a little bit. Think about that 16 hours and how you desire to fill that 16 hours that are your waking hours during the day. Guarantee that when you're more intentional about that, those 8 that you're sleeping will be much more fulfilling as well. So consider these blocks that you're going to put as much of a priority as a conversation with your boss, as anything else that you are responsible to do, right? So now Lisa's going to talk us through some of the things when we're thinking, okay, I'm going to handle Parkinson's law differently, and I'm going to get things all sorted out in a very meaningful, intentional way. And I will have more time now to become more centered. And so how do I do that? Or I'm in the middle of the crazy day. I've blocked my things. I have other meetings, this and that, and I need a little breathing room, like literal breathing room. And so what might that look like, Lisa?
Well, it's interesting that you would ask me that, Terry. Then it's an interesting thing between my relationship with calendar and practice. And Terry has definitely mentored me through this, because I have been calendar resistant most of my life, because I am that like spiritual butterfly. I'm like, oh, the universe will allow, like space will open up. And in many ways it does. But when it comes to being that juggler, and also Terry, my daughter can juggle as well. JoJo's such a good juggler. She's an athlete. And one of the most fun things we do is give her all the dryer balls. Like when we visit, do it, JoJo, So some people really do this in a magnificent way. And I just have to say that Terry's very good at this. And I'm learning every single day, I'm learning more about how it frees me up if I'm using my calendar in a way that is proactive. It frees me up so that I can let go of the worries and responsibilities and let my spiritual woo-woo butterfly person out for longer periods of time. And it feels really good that I get to do that. I don't have to do a calendar. I get to do a calendar. And that's also the language that Terry has taught me as well. So what I love to integrate into my day is a practice called the presence process. And I learned this through a book called The Presence Process by Michael Brown, and we're going to give you that link. And it is a unique practice of breath work. There are lots of different kinds of ways to experience breath work, and I've experienced many, but this one is one that has stuck. And I use it I use it every day. And especially in times of transitioning from a stressful situation, something that was challenging, and then I'm going into the next. And especially in healthcare, this is a wonderful process. If you've been in a patient room and you've had a difficult encounter or a challenge and your stress level goes up, you can literally do this in a minute. And before you go into the next patient's room or the next meeting that you have, whatever environment, or family too, like your kid just came home and dumped a bunch of stuff on you emotionally, you can clear that with this process. And it goes like this. So it's a phrase, and just listen to the phrase, and then I'll invite you to practice it with me. And the phrase is, I am here now in this. So that's the phrase. It's very simple. I am here now, in this. And then the breath work part comes in that every word you take is an inhalation or an exhalation. So it goes like this. You breathe in, I, exhale, am, in, here, exhale now. And so we'll walk through that. That was a sample. So I'll walk you through that right now. So join me in just relaxing and putting down whatever's in your hands. And we'll take a deep breath before we start. Take a deep breath in and out. And then say to yourself as you breathe in, I am here now, in this. And do that one more time. I am here now, in this. And how does that feel to you? Can you feel a difference than when you were listening compared to practicing it? I definitely did. It helped me to calm down right now. I was a little nervous about this webinar and was like going to get things right. And so it reminded me in this practice that, I'm in breath. We're all in this together. So thank you for participating in that. The other thing that I love to do is it's a Qigong move, and Qigong is an ancient Chinese practice. And we have an energy field around us. Some of us are more sensitive to it than others. The energy is what keeps us alive. It's, when you see somebody or a scene on ER or Grey's Anatomy when they run in, there's a code blue and they run in with the paddles and they apply electricity to the heart, because that's what keeps us going, it's electric energy. And so the way we clear our energy is much like, there's different practices, but this one I love because it's so fast. And so let's say, again, you've been in a difficult situation, of a difficult patient, a difficult coworker or something. Maybe you've got information through your computer that you're like, wow, how am I going to deal with this? And you feel your body clench and tighten and contract. What you can do is you stand up. I'm standing right now, and you put your hands in a V above your head, and you literally swoosh down like that fast. And you don't do it lazy or limp. You're like, well, maybe I'll clear my energy. No, you do it with a commitment that I own my energy. I am my energy. My energy field is feeding me and I want it back. Right now I feel depleted, and get all this other stuff off of me. And so you do it with a whoosh. You make the noise, breathe out, and do it like you mean it, like you're a ninja. And it's amazing how it feels. So I invite you right now, if you can stand up, great. If not, sitting at your desk, it's another thing you can do wherever you are. Put your hands at the top of your head in a V and just let it out. Let it out. One more time. Let it out. Doesn't that feel good? Kind of shake your hands out and like, oh man, wipe all that icky stuff off. And it's something you can do anytime. Maybe you at the grocery store, whenever there's an encounter, you just let it go. You don't own that. It's not yours. It's not yours, because energy is sticky. It can bounce off of you. So great job, everybody. That was fun to see you doing that. And then the last thing that I love to do is a yoga move. And what I want to encourage you with this is that, you don't have to be a yogi, an expert, a teacher, or super practiced yoga participant in order to do yoga moves. You can learn 2 or 3 and use them anytime you want. And I have to confess, I'm not very good at yoga. And you literally stand on one foot, and you balance out, you lift up one foot, and you let If you're stepping on your left foot, you would put your right foot up against your ankle in a gentle way, not in a pressure way, or you can even leave your foot straight down if you want, just balancing on one foot. And imagine and pay attention to the bones in your feet, the muscles in your feet, and notice how they're moving left and right and left and right, constantly adjusting so that you can stay on that one foot. And then notice as you're standing, notice how it affects your knee and your hips and your pelvis, and you can see how it's aligning your muscles, your musculature, your skeletal. Everything is aligning in order for you to do this simple thing. And how complicated it is, up to your shoulders and your neck and your head. And for me, it brings me into a place of awe that my body knows to do this. I can say, in my mind, I'm gonna stand on one foot. And then the energy that it takes to align in that way and the awareness that it brings to the body instantly. I cannot tell you how many times I've done this standing in an airport. I had a speaking engagement and I'm standing there, waiting in line, and as you know how you do a lot of standing. And it helps me get out of the stress of that situation of waiting and into the presence of, oh my goodness, this is me enjoying my body in a way that's personal and private. I don't really care if anyone can see me standing on one foot, but it brings me to that place. And so, and always, if you do this, practice it on both feet, on both sides. So I started on my left side as I was talking to you about this, and I'm going to complete it on my right side. And notice how one side balances more easily than the other. Like when I stand on my right foot right now and I'm balancing and I can feel the muscles in my foot and my knee and to my pelvis and as I'm doing this right now, it's so much easier on my right side because we're stronger typically on one side than we are on the other. So it's important to practice whenever you're doing something that involves one side or the other, that you do both, because that maintains that strength and that balance, and helps you to have that kind of inner connection that you want. So those are the three basic, you can pull those out of your pocket anytime you want to help you align wherever you are. The last thing that I want to throw in is snapping. Terry knows that I do this when if I hear a negative thought pop in my head, like I'm walking with some friends and maybe I get this thought like, oh, they're dressed so much nicer than I should have worn something different. Then I go, because this is life. I can accept myself where I am as I am. So I replace the negative thought with an affirmation. And by snapping, it really, and if somebody else is around you and they're like, you're having a good moment and somebody walks in and says something negative and drowns you out a little bit, snap. So those are my go-tos. And Terry, what do you believe or hear gets in the way of people integrating such practices?
One thing, the big T. What do you think that is? Time. And Lisa just explained how to do 4 things actually that take seconds, and yet we're all compelled to say, who has time for this? Who has time for this self-care? Who has time for this centering? Ends up we all do. We need to be more intentional about seeking it, about finding it, and challenging ourselves to put it on the calendar. So what you're seeing right now is my example of that. So what if the week ahead of you or the month ahead of you initially looked like this? First and foremost, look like this, and then you filled in around it. So when I talk about that 16 hours, what if you took back control and you said, here are the things that are important to me, and you move them around, like where I have yoga, it could say running, or it could say walk in nature, and it could happen in the evening. The point is that you're apt to not get to these components of getting yourself more centered unless you plan for them. And so this is my suggestion. Like Lisa said, we go about things very differently. If I'm going to commit to, I have this full day, I want to be sure that part of that full day includes attention to the things that are important to me. So we're going to share a copy of that with you afterwards, and we'll open this up in just a little bit for Q&A and see what the barriers are to that, because we want to say the barrier's time, but we're more in control of time than we let ourselves be. So before we get to Q&A, the last thing we'll talk about very quickly here is some information about what we do and what's next. So this is a taste of what we talk about at the retreat and what people experience. So you see some information there. And as importantly, we'd like to continue the conversation with you. So we're on LinkedIn and Instagram, Thriving Leader Collaborative for both of those. And we do centering thoughts, and that's several days a week, sometimes 5 days a week, to help leaders stop. So part of that, practice the pause, and maybe somewhere where you've calendared in the day that you would look at the centering thought and think about what that means to you, and think about what difference it might make in your life, whatever that is that we're offering that day. We have a membership portal. So on our, Chelsea will put these links in the chat. On our learning management system, we have a membership portal where we're building a community for conversations about this intersection between inner balance and outer challenges. And just as we've already mentioned, we have this retreat coming up in Colorado in July, and then we'll be in Costa Rica for 5 days, October 13th to 18th.